What is up, nerds? It is Reptile DIY here again, and today I'm going to be showing you all how to make your very own functional chain belt with relatively cheap material. So let's get this started. So whether you're a punk, a goth, a metalhead, a cosplayer, maybe even a steampunk, maybe you're into Wasteland Weekend, hell if I know. Shit, you might even be a pissed off, vaguely alternative teenager who was tired of paying an outrageous amount of money to buy some sweatshop alternative garbage made overseas. I'm going to show you how to make your own chain belt and teach you some skills along the way. And if I'm being completely honest, these chain belts are going to add a whole other layer to whatever sort of weirdo you may be. Let's talk about supplies. So supplies are going to be pretty basic. We have a pair of scissors. We have 2 metal O-rings. We have some rivets. We also have a leather punch over there in the corner. Of course, we have our chain. And we have our leather belt. You can find all your supplies at a local hardware store for pretty cheap. That is, if you want to pay for them in the first place. One thing you do need to realize about chain is that it comes in multiple sizes and different gauges. Now, if you're working with a smaller gauge chain, you can absolutely open up that small gauge chain with a pair of pliers. Now, if you're working with larger gauge chain, you're going to have to use a hacksaw to cut it open. And if you're going to use a hacksaw, you're going to need a bench vise. But like I said, that is only for larger gauge chain. Alright guys, here's our chains. We are going to be using the one on the bottom. Now when it comes to these chains, you're going to measure out your waist in inches and then subtract 6 inches from that. Now with that total amount, you're going to go to the hardware store and you're going to have them cut the chain for you. Now here's our leather belt. I like to shop at thrift stores because you could upcycle second-hand material.
It also gives you the option to get vegan material if that is your thing.
So here's a quick drawing of what the belt's going to look like when it's finished. So step 1 is to take your belt and cut off both ends of the belt. You're going to want the buckle side and you're going to want the strap side. Now with both sides, you're going to want to leave enough room that you could actually fold them over your metal O-rings, alright? That's very important. So next, you're going to want to take your belt ends, wrap them around your O-rings. So one O-ring is going to have the buckle and the other O-ring is going to have just the straps. So here we go. We're punching the hole. Make it pop. Then we're going to take our rivets, push them through, and then we're going to set our rivets. Now there's different ways you can set your rivets. Some people use hammers, some people use a pair of pliers. If you have a bench vise handy, that's what I like to use, but here's an example of me using a hammer. So now we have the front of our belt made. At this point, we're going to just size it up to yourself. We're going to wrap the chain around you and just see how it sits on your body. Pretty straightforward. So our next step is actually attaching the chain to those O-rings. So for this, if you're going to be using a larger gauge chain, like I said, you're going to want to use a hacksaw and a bench vise. If you're using a small tiny ass chain, you can use a pair of pliers and open that up. Anyway, we're going to take our chain, bring it over to our bench vise. We're going to take our hacksaw, we're going to cut it open along the seam or the weld. Then we're going to take a pair of pliers, open it up, and we're going to put our O-rings in. Then we're going to close our chain. Now closing a chain with a bench vise, it takes time and you just have to work it at a bunch of different angles for it to set properly. Now if you want, you could take a file and clean up around the chain so you don't get any metal burrs cutting your skin. That's optional. I like to do that so you just don't cut your skin up. You are going to do that with both O-rings. And it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. If you have to, you can even tap your O-rings into place with a small hammer. There we are, we're closing the other side. Like I said, guys, this is really simple and really straightforward. These chain belts are one of the most easy things that you can DIY. So here's our finished chain belt. It's pretty simple, like I said. I guess if you want, you could just wrap a chain around you and call it good. But, having the belt aspect of it makes it a lot easier to take on and off, and it just looks a lot cleaner. And like I said, it's easy to make, it's cheap to make, you're going to love it once you have it. Hopefully you learned some skills and sort of an introduction into DIY leatherwork. And like I said before, this chain belt will add a whole other level to whatever outfit you're wearing. And subscribe if you want to see more DIY content. See you later, nerds.